Yeah, so I'll start things off. This is huge. So not only was the world record broken by Yiheng, and it's not that surprising to me that Yiheng broke the world record. The what is crazy is the time, 4.09 seconds. I think that is just absolutely wild. It's like it is like less than 1 second away from the 3x3 single, which is 3.13. I think it's just amazing. I think John is going to talk a little bit more about like the actual solves, but the solves are also just like absolutely masterclass. And just a good set of scrambles. And Yiheng, man, did he execute? Just phenomenal.
Yeah, and then there's a few interesting things that happened here. I mean, the first solve, you really get a look at the smart decision making that he has, that he knows when to yeah, what's important, what really saves time. I mean, EO is going to be the future as far as what it's going to take to get these solves again, because between his look ahead and his edge control, that's what it took to get consistent luck throughout these solves. So I mean, on the fourth solve, you see on X cross, very smooth F12 that went into essentially a last layer skip. He didn't know the VLS, but I mean, a last layer skip to pull out that 3.71, which it is definitely luck, but it shows that he didn't even know the VLS and got that 371. So skill is a massive part of it. Then on that fifth solve was a 61 move solve with a 3.88 time. It has to be a TPS world record by far. That's 15.72 TPS. Unreal. So you can claim luck all you want, but nothing lucky about a 15.72 TPS 61 move solve. That's world class. So this is definitely where luck, hard work, preparation, and a massive amount of skill has all come together. So this is certainly not unbeatable, but it's going to take a long time, and a lot more luck.
Just to show you how far ahead of everyone Yiheng is with 3x3, the gap between Yiheng and Timon is the same as the gap between Timon and Dylan Miller. That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, so but here's like a real poll. Here's some like more like actual polling data, right? So there was another poll that was done in Cubus's friends about which one is going to get broken first. Are we going to see sub 3x3 single first, or are we going to see sub 4 3x3 average? I think there is almost no way that we see the sub 4 average before we see a sub 3 single.
Right.
And it comes down to just the way that the competitors currently like line up against the current like world record singles and averages. The world record single is just 1 second away from the world record average right now. And Yiheng has got like he counted 2 threes in that average, in the 409 average. So, he's like knocking on the door. He has the ASR single, also 338, which is like 0.2 away from the world record. And it's just a matter of time until he gets like one really good solve that just lines up for him particularly well. EO done, or like, you have like 2 bad edges that you can orient very, very easily into a fluid F2L. And maybe this time, he happens to just get a last layer skip. Maybe he doesn't even need to know the VLS. Maybe it's just like a 3-move insert into last layer skip to get like a sub 3 single. I think that's not out of the question. But to get sub 4 average, I think is going to be extremely tough for basically anyone in the field to do. I think including Yiheng himself. I think 409 is going to stand for a good long time. A lot of people have been saying, oh yeah, like next month he's going to get the world record. He might, but I think in order to get the solves that he had, the scrambles that he got, and the solves that he performed at this competition, I think were just like significantly better than your average scramble that you would get. It's not every competition, right? He's breaking the world record, and it's not every round he's breaking the world record either. This was a competition that had 4 rounds of 3x3, so that's 20 scrambles that he gets to look at, right? And of those 20 scrambles, how many of them are going to get thrown out? Like 8 of them are going to get thrown out. So that still leaves 12 scrambles for him to like actually like perform and do well on. 12 scrambles is more than like a lot of people will see in like a month, right? So it's not just that he is clearly like extremely good, right? Like I think in the last like 10 rounds or something, he's only had 2 averages that are over 5 seconds, and even those are like not that much further over. but it's simply like in order to get everything to line up for him, or for anyone else for that matter, I think is it going to be extremely unlikely to happen. Yeah, I mean, so I basically asked Maddie this at North American Championships in like an interview that I did with him. I'm like, besides yourself, who do you think can beat Yiheng right now, right? And that was back when Yiheng had 448 world record. And to him, he said there are only two people who have ever done it before, are Timon and Max. They are the only people who have beat Timon at like a major stage before. And so he thought that those two are the only ones. I think it is still not impossible for Max to do it. Max does need to get probably some lucky cases and things like that, stuff that only he can see. And Timon, we all know what a magician Timon is, right? Like that guy has absolutely fantastic solutions that like he just, his vision of the cube is just so different. So I put those two into the hat. And of course there's a lot of other like Chinese kids as well who are kind of like flying under the radar to some extent too. We saw a good number of them show up in GAN SSL. I think those guys do have some sort of chance, but man, Yiheng right now, he's carrying 3x3 on his back, and he's like not turning back right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to call out there too that I do think that Luke Greiser, if there's one American that has the determination to get there, he has it in him. And also, I don't want to get called out, so I want to make sure that I cover myself ahead of time. If anyone can do it, I think that he might want it the most. And it'd also be a great example of someone who's as young as Luke Greiser is compared to Yiheng, he's quite a bit older. Can someone who's quote unquote older start to incorporate some of these principles these younger cubers are doing and get to that level? I don't think it's impossible. It hasn't necessarily been done to this level, but I'd be excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just like a clear difference between the way that cubing is kind of like, I don't want to say portrayed because it's not the word I'm looking for, but basically the way that cubing is treated in China and versus how it is in the West, right? You have like these students who are literally show up to like cubing schools, whereas like we don't have anything like that in the West, at least not to the same scale. So that I think is going to be really interesting. It's going to be an interesting dichotomy that we see at World Championships 2025. And we'll have to see if, some people have like dubbed this as like the Chinese takeover. I find that language a little strong. But it'll be interesting to see like which type of style ends up like winning out over the other. I also want to put another name to this hat. If we're talking in a year's time, watch out for Caleb Chen. That's all I'm going to say. He has potential.
Yeah. Imagine if you will, the dystopian, the 20XX of cubing for my melee players. Just the world where imagine Yiheng 8 years from now. Imagine, what if this guy, what if he gets better? Like, we start approaching. We start getting to these hypotheticals of why do you think Greiser wants it the most out of everyone? Why do you think he can push to something close to Yiheng's world record?
You gotta watch his car videos, dude. Dude, the guy has has drive. He has motivation.
I haven't seen any of his videos that he's done in the car.
Oh yeah. He has drive and his motivation.
I think it's a personal thing for him.
A personal thing.
Yeah, he takes it. Yeah, I think that if there's someone that takes it the most seriously, it's him. And does that mean that I'm going to invest all my stock in him? No. I mean, I think that's someone you got to watch out for. I mean, I think that's your sleeper pick, right? I think that overall the heavy favorite is still going to be Yiheng. It's still going to be, any of these younger Chinese kids, because that's just going to be, unfortunately, the sport youth is always your biggest asset.
409, I think is gonna stand for a good little bit. I don't think anyone else has like too good of a chance to take that right now. Maybe in like a month or 6 months time, maybe we'll see. The other thing that is going to happen in like 9 months time is the World Championship. I think that's the more important thing that we're going to start to look at. We're going to start to move towards records that are going to be less and less traceable. Like 409 is already like getting, somewhat removed from everything else. Yeah. We had this conversation before too, but when the first sub 5 average happened, and when 347 also happened, but it took a while for those records to be beaten. I think in the meantime, you're. I think this is just something that's going to happen in tubing. This time between the world records are going to be longer and longer as they become harder and harder to beat, and as people like kind of come in and out. You can't stay at your peak forever, right? I think what's going to be more interesting is seeing how these competitors perform at the world championships, because that is where I think all the eyes are on that prize. Who is going to become the world championship? Will Max Park defend his title? Will Yiheng claim the title after losing last time by 0.01? Will Timon win the world championship? Will someone else some completely like random win? I think that's going to be the most interesting thing. But I think this has added more fuel to the fire and definitely strengthens Yiheng's chances of going back and exacting his revenge.
Really big thing to talk about, which is Hassan Khanani's 2x2, which I still haven't seen the video of it. I haven't seen the solve, but apparently Marinick was chuckling quite a bit about it. But potentially some intentional sliding going on. I see it in quotes here. What does that? Do we know if it was intentional? Do we know if it wasn't intentional?
I think to start, it would be an insane claim to say that Hassan Khanani was trying to cheat, which intentionally sliding arguably would be cheating. I mean, maybe the argument could be made that sliding is not cheating because it's been allowed in other times in the past. I think the way I like to look at this is an art piece. You tell me what it is, right? I think that he's a really smart guy, and so I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I think that he knows exactly what he's looking to do. And man, I think it brings up so many interesting conversation pieces because I had to watch the video twice to see what was happening. Once in regular speed, in which case I really watched it a few times at regular speed, and it was hard to really tell the difference. But in slow motion, you can tell that he got 5-6 moves in before or taking his wrist off that timer. So how do you, in a consistent basis, can stop competitors from doing this? I don't know. Do you just remove 2x2? Is 2x2 broken? Do we start using smart cubes only? I think this is a beautiful piece of art that we have that is going to bring up a lot of future topics. I'm excited to see where it leads.
Yeah. I find it so interesting that you refer to it as art because I kind of see it in a similar way. Like, I think there's a lot of people like look at this like with the basically like there's like an outcome that they're trying to get, right? And I think people look at this already like trying to extract that outcome. People who think that 2x2 is like that sliding or cheating are gonna be like, okay, well, he did this, he like clearly cheated, clearly the event is broken, we need to fix everything, right? And then other people who don't think it's cheating are gonna be like, well, like what did he do that was like outside the regulations? So I think it's really interesting, and I think there's a lot of hard discourse behind it, which I think goes to show how much YouTubers care about this particular topic. I actually will disagree with you, Eppley. I thought it was pretty clear that something was definitely goofy there when he started the solve. Like clearly, like it didn't look like the timer had started until like he lifted what looked to be his forearms off of the table. So I thought it was like very strange to see even at real speed. I actually didn't even try looking frame by frame because I'm just like, yeah, like this is definitely very strange. Now, whether or not the judge can pay attention to all of that in the amount of time it takes, especially for something like 2x2, because the judge is also looking at the stopwatch in order for it to look at inspection. The judge is looking at like the puzzle and stuff. The judge is also looking at like the hand positioning where the competitor is starting. That is a completely different matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's to me, the angle that it was at, I was mostly thinking of the judge's perspective. How do you consistently call this out when there's not a timer there, or excuse me, not a camera there? Because it will make a difference. I mean, if I can go 5 or 6 turns on my solves without the timer starting, I can get a few PRs for sure. So, although on a high level, of course, we'll be in front of cameras. We'll have more eyes, more scrutiny, and we'll be able to dial it in and understand when this happens. But on a more on a larger level, what's going to happen at all these local competitions where people are now aware of this method of cheating and they can start to cheat themselves with better PRs with this new method. So again, I think this is art because I just like to see how this all plays out and see how other people action on it.
What do you mean? As in like 2x2 is broken?
It's done. I mean, people are fast enough where it just doesn't matter at the level it's at. It's great that we have had this format for so long, but does it really make the most sense to have it be formatted this way? Does it make more sense to do 5 cubes in inspection? Does it make more sense to just do 3x3, 4x4, 3x3 one-handed events that the average viewer can care more about? I think 2x2 is such an algorithmic event that unless you really know the sport on a high level, or the algorithms on a high level, all you're saying is, oh, I did 1-2 moves into this algorithm, which is, imagine if every 3x3 solve was, oh, I did these 4 moves into a ZBLL. I did these 5 moves into a ZBLL.
Yeah.
No one would really care to watch these recaps because it's just, oh, they're really good at setting up the algorithm. So, can it exist for people to have fun with it? Absolutely. Is it going to be a mainstay in what moves the needle for speed cubing, what gets people interested, and what makes it a spectator sport? I don't think so. I think it's broken in its current format. I mean, at world championships, I don't think that. I think the average viewer on the 2x2 final and not only the average viewership on the 2x2 final, but the average 2x2 competitor, I believe, is far less mainstream famous than even an average 3x3 solver. And I'll stand on that.
Interesting. I'm gonna push back. I think that doesn't make any sense because, and here's why. Because if I show up to my first competition, the 2 events I can guarantee you I'm participating in is 3x3 and 2x2. I can guarantee you that I'm going to participate in those 2 events because if I know how to solve a 3x3, I can solve a 2x2. My sister, who has an official profile, has never competed in anything other than 2x2. Now, granted, she tried to do an average of 5, and then she didn't know how to do J-perm. So whenever she got to last layer, if it wasn't already solved, she would just give up in PNF. So she only has 2 out of 5 official attempts. But she exists in the database, and she went to a competition just to do 2x2. So I think that it doesn't make sense to remove it because there is clearly a demand for it, right? People want to do 2x2, and it's good for newer competitors to see, okay, well, this is your first step into the rest of the 17 events because no first timers aren't going to do 3 blind, right? They're not going to do multi-blind. They're not going to do FMC, but they're like, okay, a 2x2, I can understand how to do this. And so it's nice that there's something here for me to do. Now, there's a different matter where you could say that maybe we have 2x2 at a lower tier, where 2x2 is a lower tier event, and we just are not going to hold it at the World Championships, but we'll keep some records around for it. Or we'll have it in some unofficial context, maybe, and we'll keep some unofficial records about it, and we don't care if people slide during those. Those are all possibilities. I think the other thing that's interesting is the Smart Cube. It might be curious to see what happens with that, because I know Moyu just released the 2x2 Smart Cube, although it is insanely expensive. Those are my remainder thoughts. I think sliding is a really interesting topic overall, and it remains to be seen how the WCA will deal with it, because what's interesting to me is that it seems within the community, it seems like cubers don't like sliding because it seems like it's not solving the puzzle. I feel like I'm and I think non-cubers don't care. I think they straight up don't care. They're just all right, whatever, just tell me what the world record is. And if they did a technique with their hands that allowed them to get something that shows up as a smaller time, that seems cool. I'm somewhere in between where it's just okay, at some point we just have to decide, is pick up and put down part of speed cubing? And if it is, then okay, then sliding is fine. And if it isn't, then we have to figure out ways to either use the hardware that we currently have and make it so that the pick up and put down is less of a factor, or just create new hardware. So I think it opens up a can of worms in either direction, no matter what you do, which makes it great as someone who does not do things like 2x2 and could not really care because he's not skilled enough to slide anyway. So it's good entertainment for me.
John, do you have anything else?
No, I mean, I think that's a good time to move into highlight of the week. Manu, you're the one who actually brought this up. You want to tell us more?
I can tell you. I'll tell you this cool highlight. So obviously we had the 3x3 world record, and we've talked about that ad nauseum at this point, and I'm sure like we've inserted lots of clips about that into this video as well. I want to talk about a different world record that happened. Dylan Baumbach got the Square One world record. Square One is this like really wacky puzzle that like it kind of looks like a 3x3, but it's like instead of the lines being straight, they're like at a diagonal, so you can kind of cut it, and it's a shape-shifting puzzle, which makes it really interesting.
Do you have a Square One with you?
I have a Square One somewhere.
Okay.
It's somewhere. I suck at Square One, so that's why I don't really care that much about it, but I still think it's cool that Dylan Baumbach got the world record, 4.81 seconds. He broke his previous world record at the last competition he went to, which was 4.88. And what's wild about this one, right, is not only is he he's the North American champion, but he locked in the world record by solve number 4. Because average of 5, you drop the best time and drop the worst time. By solve number 4, even if the last solve was a DNF, which in this case it was, the 3 times that counted would still be a world record 4.81. So on solve 5, you had the opportunity to try and better the world record. He DNF'd, probably because he was like, yo, I got the world record. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. So that's pretty epic. Whenever we see someone lock in like a really good average, a win at solve 4, that's how you know that they're like competing at like the top of their ability.
All right. Well, we'll bring this to a close quickly. Thanks for watching Plus 3, everyone. If you want to follow and subscribe to Happy Feet Productions channel for all the latest in cubing news and entertainment, do so now. Like and subscribe, comment, like and subscribe. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
Bye-bye, everyone, including John's dog.
Including John's dog.